David, slow down, look how impatient you are. Can't your wife satisfy you? Her? She's just a neglected wife. She doesn't understand men like you do. I worked overtime all night and dragged myself home exhausted, only to hear sounds of lewd moaning coming from the bedroom. My body stiffened. I stared fixedly at the door in disbelief. Groans and dirty talk continued to spill out, mixed with my husband David Miller's voice. The volume was so loud I couldn't even pretend I was hearing things. I was working myself to the bone outside, and he was cheating on me right here in our own home. A wave of fury surged up inside me. I couldn't hold back any longer. I kicked open the slightly ajar door. In bed, messing around with a woman, was indeed my husband, David Miller. The woman, however, was Sophia Adams, a second-tier actress who had recently been gaining popularity. Seeing me suddenly appear after working late, the two on the bed jumped. Sophia Adams shrieked and pulled the duvet over her naked body. I looked at the duvet I had carefully chosen, now wrapped around some random woman I didn't know. A surge of hot blood rushed to my head. David Miller, you goddamn cheated on me on our marriage bed. I'll kill you cheating lowlifes. I lunged forward. While they were still stunned, I grabbed Sophia Adams by the hair and slapped her hard twice. Then I snatched a pillow and started hitting David Miller with all my might. Naked and unprepared, the two of them were caught off guard, and I managed to land several blows. As I was about to unleash the rest of my fury, David Miller, having regained his senses, grabbed my wrist. Crazy woman, haven't you made enough of a scene? Meanwhile, Sophia Adams, now free, seized the opportunity to scramble off the bed and kick me hard. I was caught off guard and fell to the floor. TCH. Can't keep your own man in line, so you take it out on me. She looked down at me, her eyes filled with palpable mockery that made me even more enraged. Sophia, are you okay? Seeing that I was momentarily incapacitated, David Miller ignored me and carefully helped Sophia Adams up, his face full of concern as he stroked her cheek where I had hit her. David, she actually dared to hit my face. I have to face countless cameras. How will I live if my face is injured? Don't worry. I'll find the best doctor for you, absolutely no scars left behind. David Miller comforted her verbally, then thought for a moment, rummaged through the bedside table, and took out an exclusive beauty clinic card, handing it to Sophia Adams. This is an exclusive card for a nationally renowned beauty clinic. Go take care of yourself. Sophia Adams happily accepted it. I crawled over, trying to snatch it back. David Miller, that's my exclusive beauty clinic card. You're giving it to your mistress right in front of me. Do I mean nothing to you? Honestly? No, you don't. David Miller sneered, looking at me as if I were something dirty, and said word by word, I've wanted to say this for a long time. Today's as good a day as any. Let's just get it over with. I want a divorce. I've already signed the divorce settlement. All you need to do is sign your name and get out. I can't stand to look at you for another second. I stared fixedly at the husband I had shared a bed with for 3 years, finding him utterly unrecognizable at that moment. David Miller, you're not human, I said through gritted teeth. David Miller chuckled. Be smart and sign the divorce settlement quickly. Dragging this out will only make you look worse. David Miller and I met at a reception. He said he fell in love with me at first sight and quickly pursued me aggressively. Before long, I was head over heels and married him. In our 3 years of marriage, I used my expertise as an economics master's graduate to help David Miller build his company from a small business into the successful group it is today, elevating his social status significantly. But as his career became more successful and he got richer, I noticed his temper grew shorter. He lost the tenderness he once had for me and became more impatient by the day. I thought he was just stressed from work. I never imagined he was cheating and bringing his mistress back to the cozy home I had furnished with my own hands, lying on our marriage bed. I knew about Sophia Adams. David Miller had confessed to me when we were dating, saying she was his first love but they had broken up long ago, and I was his only one. Now, David Miller and Sophia Adams were naked and wrapped around each other. I felt like my eyes were spitting fire, my gaze locked onto the two people before me. I vowed to remember these two who had brought me such boundless humiliation. If I didn't get revenge, I wouldn't be doing justice to my 3 years of effort. Stop dragging your feet. I won't change my mind no matter how long you take. Hurry up. Sign it. Seeing me hesitate, David Miller urged impatiently. Ha ha ha, I suddenly laughed, tears streaming down my face, leaving the two before me utterly bewildered. Fine, I'll sign, I said readily. A person whose heart has changed is like a rotten apple, keeping them only dirties your hands. Let's divorce. With half of the marital assets I get, I can make a comeback. You should have agreed sooner. Wasted my time. David Miller threw the prepared divorce settlement in front of me. I picked it up and flipped through it. I finally understood why David Miller was so confident and kept pressuring me to sign. That scum had already manipulated our marital assets. I wouldn't get a single cent, I would be leaving with nothing. You cheated me? Hey, you can't say that. David Miller smiled shamelessly. For the past 3 years, I've provided for you, bought you expensive bags, clothing, and jewelry. I treated you well, didn't I? This asset distribution is perfectly reasonable. My economics master's wasn't for nothing, and I had spent many years navigating the business world. If I could be easily defeated by such a minor setback, I wouldn't have achieved what I have today. Ignoring David Miller's ranting, I calmed down and read the divorce settlement word by word, paying special attention to the asset division section. Fortunately, it didn't take long before I found several loopholes in the agreement. My heart leaped. I read the agreement again from the beginning, feeling much more confident now. I put the agreement back on the table and calmly told David Miller, I won't sign this agreement. Catherine Smith, don't push your luck. I don't have time to argue with you. Sign it and we'll go our separate ways. Just looking at you is an eyesore. Perfect, I don't want to see you either. But this agreement, I will not sign. I'll see you in court. Saying I'd see David Miller in court wasn't because I had no other option. On the contrary, I had found a way to turn the tables. I took the divorce settlement and found the best lawyer in the city. These clauses are very imprecise, the lawyer said, looking at the loopholes I had found. We can definitely start from these points. It's impossible for him to make you leave with nothing. You are entitled to at least half of the marital assets. The lawyer and I discussed the details carefully. The more we discussed, the clearer things became. That idiot David Miller wanted to seize all our marital assets, but he'd have to see if he had the ability to do so. In court, my lawyer and I presented our evidence one by one. David Miller was furious but couldn't say a word in rebuttal. Finally, extremely unwilling but helpless, he accepted the court order. Walking out of the court that day, I felt reborn. I told myself the past was like being bitten by a mad dog, now I was sober, and I had beaten the dog to death. I was going to live a brand new life. The night I received half of the Miller Corporation assets, I invited a few friends and threw myself a singlehood celebration party. From now on, I was still the queen. We had a wild night and stayed up very late. The next day, when Andrew Johnson proposed to me, my first thought was that the alcohol hadn't worn off and I was dreaming. Wow, that liquor was strong. I'm having hallucinations. Let me nap a bit more. Just as I was about to turn and go back inside, Andrew Johnson grabbed my hand, saying with a slightly exasperated smile, Catherine, you're not dreaming, and I'm not joking. No, but why did you suddenly take an interest in me? I scratched my messy hair. It wasn't false modesty, it just seemed unbelievable. Me, a newly divorced woman, who had gotten half of Miller Corporation's money, but it was insignificant compared to Andrew Johnson's wealth. And Andrew Johnson, who studied abroad, was over 6 feet tall, looked like a movie star, and owned over a dozen companies. Why would he suddenly propose to me? It was more believable to think I was still asleep than to believe this was real. I've been pursuing you for a long time, don't you remember? Andrew Johnson looked at me sincerely. Hearing him say that, I vaguely remembered something. Before I married David Miller, Andrew Johnson had indeed pursued me. I didn't know if I had been blind or out of my mind back then to give up Andrew Johnson and choose David Miller, a man inferior to him in every way. You know, I just got divorced. You don't mind? I only feel for you having met such a scum who didn't cherish you. I looked into Andrew Johnson's eyes. He didn't avoid my gaze at all, not even a flicker of evasion. I suddenly felt a sense of clarity. Overthinking some things doesn't necessarily help you avoid what's coming. Okay, I accept. Andrew Johnson, I hope I haven't misjudged you. Andrew Johnson seemed overjoyed. Neither of us was superstitious, so we simply chose a day that was convenient for everyone and went to City Hall to get our marriage license. There were quite a few people getting married. After going through all the procedures, nearly 2 hours had passed. Holding the freshly issued marriage certificate, my mood was a little strange. It hadn't been long since the marriage certificate turned into a divorce decree, and now the divorce decree had turned back into a marriage certificate. I smiled, put the marriage certificate in my bag, and was about to leave when a commotion broke out at the entrance. Is that her? She doesn't look as pretty in person as she does on camera. I looked up. Talk about running into people you'd rather avoid. Standing at the entrance, about to come in, were none other than David Miller and Sophia Adams. It seemed that winning back his first love had made David Miller very happy. Even losing half of his assets to me hadn't dampened his mood. He was already bringing Sophia Adams to register their marriage. As for Sophia Adams, seeing the dozen or so reporters gathered at the City Hall entrance, I suddenly understood her intention. She had been stuck as a second-tier actress for too long. She was getting older and didn't have any notable works, so she wanted to use her marriage to get some buzz and try to break into the top tier. Humph. Such classless people only knew how to take shortcuts with these kinds of tactics. Catherine? The moment he saw David Miller and Sophia Adams appear, Andrew Johnson gently put his hand on my shoulder and pulled me closer into his embrace. Are you okay? Strangely, these two people had caused me so much pain and such a messy split, yet with Andrew Johnson's gesture and gentle, quiet question, all that unpleasantness seemed to dissipate. I'm fine. I gave him a gentle smile in return. Thank you, husband. Hearing me call him husband, Andrew Johnson beamed. Good, let's go home and celebrate. He put his arm around me and we walked towards the exit. Oh, isn't this Catherine? Sophia Adams pretended she had just seen me, covering her mouth in a performative expression of surprise. Catherine, didn't you just get divorced? How could you already? Idiot! I subtly rolled my eyes. Did she think saying that would make the reporters write about me as some kind of promiscuous woman? Had she forgotten that she was the catalyst for my failed marriage? Not only was she not trying to be discreet in this setting, she was actively trying to provoke me. Foolish! This must be your new husband? He's quite a catch. Sophia Adams's eyes landed on Andrew Johnson. I could tell her instantaneous look of admiration wasn't faked. Say what you need to say. If not, get out of the way. We've known each other, after all. Don't be so cold. Shouldn't old friends be more enthusiastic when they meet? At this point, the reporters outside also became curious about Sophia Adams's actions. An actress, even a second-tier one, wouldn't just talk to anyone. Seeing Sophia Adams talking to me, they started turning their attention to me. And when they did, they discovered something new. Hey, who's this woman? Sophia Adams seems pretty familiar with her. Is she in the industry? Doesn't look like it. Never seen her. Gotta say, this woman's presence, she seems a cut above Sophia Adams. I was just thinking that. Not just a cut above, she's way, way above. Shoo, quiet down. Have you forgotten who hired you to come here? Listening to their supposedly quiet discussion, which everyone around could hear, and seeing Sophia Adams's face darken, I suddenly smiled. I looked at Sophia Adams and said in a voice not too loud, but loud enough for everyone to hear, how enthusiastic should I be? Enthusiastic like you and my husband rolling around in bed? As soon as I said that, the crowd erupted to a buzzing discussion. Holy crap! What's going on? Big scandal. Sophia Adams was a mistress? Caught red-handed by the wife? TSK TSK TSK, drama of the year. Record this quickly. Sophia Adams's face instantly turned pale, and she shrieked in accusation. What do you mean? I adopted a tearful expression and looked at her. Three's a crowd, I'm out. Why do you keep bringing up how you two rolled around on my marriage bed to provoke me? Sophia Adams got her wish for online buzz, but in a different form. After I accidentally exposed Sophia Adams being a mistress that day, the reporters who were originally there to promote her turned their attention to me, eager to get the scoop. With 3 parts genuine emotion and 7 parts acting, I recounted the story of David Miller and Sophia Adams, how long separated first loves reunited, leading to a moment of uncontrolled passion. I portrayed myself as heartbroken but ultimately letting them go, successfully gaining public sympathy. That night, the hashtag Sophia Adams is a mistress exploded on social media. Posts flew everywhere. Shock. Former innocent starlet exposed for breaking up a marriage. Wife tearfully begs for mercy. Can't judge a book by its cover. Shameless mistress is despicable. Three's a crowd, I'm out. This wife isn't tough enough. Why leave? Beat the cheating lowlifes. Some netizens even turned it into a meme, enthusiastic like you and my husband rolling around in bed. Eventually, all the voices merged into one: Sophia Adams, get out of the entertainment industry. The impact was enormous. In an era where mistresses were universally condemned, a public figure openly engaging in such morally reprehensible behavior and then brazenly provoking the victim caused widespread public outrage. Some wives who had suffered from infidelity even organized protests outside Sophia Adams's management company. Sophia Adams's management company quickly held a press conference where she apologized for interfering in a marriage. They announced they would suspend all her film and TV activities and keep her out of the public eye to appease the public's anger. The matter seemed resolved, yet not entirely. Sophia Adams's endorsements were cancelled, and she had to pay a huge amount in compensation. She was also completely blacklisted by her company. Knowing this was enough for me. Whatever happened to her was no longer my concern, I just needed to live my own life well. I hummed softly, walking happily down to the parking lot. There had been too much good news lately. Sophia Adams had become a public enemy. I had invested half of the assets I received into Andrew Johnson's company. Together, we were putting pressure on Miller Corporation in industries where both Johnson and Miller companies were involved, and we were seeing initial success. How should we celebrate? I thought as I walked, but unexpectedly, I saw 2 people standing in front of my car from a distance. I would recognize those 2 figures even from 100 meters away. Looking at their expressions, they seemed to have come with ill intentions, but I felt no fear whatsoever. Well, you 2 actually have the nerve to show your faces in front of me. I stopped in front of them, observing their expressions. Sophia Adams, needless to say, was now a public enemy. She probably hadn't left her house in a long time. Her complexion was poor, and even with heavy makeup, she looked very haggard. David Miller looked somewhat better, but I thought to myself that the pressure on Miller Corporation wasn't enough yet. Are you satisfied? What? I looked at them, bewildered. Sophia Adams continued tearfully, David and I were the ones who met first. We were just getting back on track, reuniting. Why did you do this? Now my reputation is ruined, my career is gone. Are you satisfied? Don't you feel any guilt towards us? You already took half of David's assets. Why are you still ganging up with others to steal his company's business? How could you be so wicked? Ah, I see. So that's what they came for. Interesting. Business is business. If Miller Corporation is being pressured, it only proves your man's ability is too poor. You can't blame others. If it wasn't me today, someone else would have come after Miller Corporation. I just got there first. Oh, seeing as we knew each other, despite the unpleasantness, let me remind you, savor the feeling of wearing designer clothes while you can. Soon, you won't be able to afford such fancy clothing and accessories anymore. I pretended to offer them a sincere reminder. Humph. David Miller finally became agitated. Men, sure enough, can never stand hearing that their abilities are lacking, especially in front of their beloved first love. He said unhappily to Sophia Adams, I told you there was no need to come. Their little games don't worry me at all. Then he turned to me with a mocking expression. You know better than anyone the strength of Miller Corporation. Come at me with everything you've got. I'd like to see if you have the ability to swallow it whole. I knew David Miller's personality best. He was arrogant, opinionated, and favored his relatives. Such a person's weaknesses were too easy to exploit and overcome. Furthermore, I had worked at Miller Corporation for 3 years. You could say I built it up myself. Nobody in the entire group knew its weak points better than I did. Taking over Miller Corporation wasn't a difficult task for me. Thus, in less than 3 months, Andrew Johnson and I snatched several major contracts from Miller Corporation and pressured them in various aspects. At the same time, I recruited many talented executives who had been suppressed by David Miller's relatives and couldn't get ahead. Soon, Miller Corporation was losing most of its market share, and its cash flow began to suffer. But I was no longer part of Miller Corporation, no longer David Miller's wife, so I didn't feel any emotion about the performance of Miller Corporation. Therefore, when the Chamber of Commerce held a reception, I got dressed up, looking radiant and dazzling, before making my appearance. Arm in arm with my tall and handsome husband, Andrew Johnson, I appeared at the reception confidently and gracefully, immediately attracting the attention of various people. Some came because of my own capabilities, others because of Johnson Corporation. I smiled and greeted each of them properly. Hey, let me tell you, looking at Mrs. Johnson's overall presence and her business acumen, how is she any less capable than that second-tier actress? David Miller really had no foresight. He messed up a perfectly good hand. Where there are people, there's always gossip. I circulated through the reception with a drink in hand, occasionally catching snippets of such whispers. Exactly. Who says otherwise? I heard my husband say that Miller Corporation's situation is very bad now. It might even go bankrupt. Aw, that bad? Yeah, didn't you see? David Miller came over with his new wife too, planning to find investors. But everyone here knows about his messy affairs, and no one wants to deal with him. I think it'll be hard for Miller Corporation to get through this. Speak of the devil. David Miller, holding a glass of red wine, slowly walked towards me. The crowd that had been whispering quickly dispersed. David Miller's expression was complex: anger, regret, dissatisfaction, and a bit of embarrassment. I watched him walk up to me, raise his glass, and ask in a low voice, "Can we talk?" There were people everywhere, so I wasn't afraid he would do anything inappropriate. I handed my glass to a passing server and spoke softly to Andrew Johnson. He was a little concerned. Is it safe? Is there anything that can't be said directly? You have to go outside to talk. I kissed his cheek. Don't worry, there are so many people here, he wouldn't do anything if he wants to save face. I'll be right back. Out of respect and trust for me, he didn't say anything more, only that he would come find me if I wasn't back in half an hour. I understood his concern and agreed. I smiled at David Miller. Let's go, Mr. Miller. I stopped when we reached the small garden, turned to David Miller, and said, "Here is fine, Mr. Miller. What do you want to talk about with me?" David Miller stared at me intently without speaking, to the point where I started to get impatient. Only then did he slowly say, "You look like you're doing quite well. If you're just going to say meaningless things like that, then I won't stay." I turned, pretending to leave. He immediately became anxious. "You still have that quick temper. You haven't changed in all these years. Is Mr. Miller here to reminisce with me? We were married for a few years, after all. Even though we're divorced now, it doesn't have to be a fight to the death, does it? Isn't having one more friend better than one more enemy? Mr. Miller certainly has a short memory, or perhaps he's getting old and forgetful. He's already forgotten why we divorced in the first place." A flicker of embarrassment crossed David Miller's face. "Although our divorce was because of Sophia and me, you did take half of my assets. Let's call it even, neither of us owes the other anything. But you're now teaming up with Johnson Corporation to target and suppress Miller Corporation. Isn't that a bit underhanded? Miller Corporation has your hard work in it too. Can you bear to see it collapse like this?" David Miller began playing the emotional card. I admit you're very capable. Can you stop now? He seemed to have forgotten that he originally wanted me to leave with nothing, and that I had fought so hard to get that half of the assets. Now, with just a few casual words, he expected me to let him off. He had quite the plan. Mr. Miller, you jest. Business is business. In the business world, you succeed or fail based on your abilities. Even if it wasn't me doing this today, another company would come after Miller Corporation. Instead of trying to take shortcuts and playing the emotional card to beg for mercy, Mr. Miller should think about how to improve his abilities, recruit talented people, and see if it's possible to save Miller Corporation. My words made David Miller's face turn green and white. It finally tore off the facade of calm he had barely maintained. He hadn't expected me to reject him after he had lowered himself to ask me to spare Miller Corporation. He took a few deep breaths, his expression suddenly becoming menacing. You really don't care about our past at all? What past do Mr. Miller and I have? I wasn't aware of any. You're so ruthless, determined to destroy Miller Corporation. Then let's see. If Miller Corporation doesn't recover, neither you nor Johnson Corporation will have it easy. David Miller issued his threat and stormed off. I didn't take his threat seriously. Anyone can make threats. Miller Corporation's current situation makes it very difficult for it to recover. I wasn't scared at all. I returned to the reception shortly after. As I reached the entrance, I saw Sophia Adams rushing towards me. TCH, these two are playing tag team. Will this ever end? Catherine Smith. Sophia Adams's brows furrowed in anger. She pulled me to a corner of the reception. Even though her voice was deliberately lowered, I could still hear the fury in her tone. Where did you just go? Where did you and David go secretly? I hadn't expected her to be so worried about David Miller. I slightly raised my eyelids and glanced at her. It was a shame, that man couldn't stir any emotion in me anymore. But seeing her like this, I suddenly felt like teasing her. Where did I go? Why don't you ask him yourself? Oh, he wouldn't dare tell you, would he? Right, the things he said to me, how could he possibly let you know? You. Sophia Adams raised her hand in exasperation, looking like she wanted to hit me. There are cameras and reporters everywhere here. If you dare lay a hand on me, I guarantee you'll be the top trending topic tonight. It might even be more sensational than last time. I didn't believe she would dare to hit me now. Want to try? You're shameless. Sophia Adams put her hand down hatefully, her eyes red with anger. You're mistaken, I said unhurriedly, straightening my clothes with composure. Someone like you, who shamelessly goes out of their way to be a mistress, that's shameless. Not only shameless, but utterly without decency. A mistress is a mistress. How could she have any shame? David and I were the real couple. If you hadn't interfered, how would we have broken up? Now things are just returning to their original course. Her ability to twist things around was quite impressive. You and David are divorced. Why are you still clinging to him? Get it straight, Ms. Adams. It's your David who keeps bothering me. I'm truly fed up with you two being like ghosts haunting me. Why don't you go tell your David to stop bothering me? Or is it that your charm isn't as great as you thought, and he's already tired of you so quickly? I don't believe David would be like that. It must be some trick you pulled. She sounded like an idiot, just repeating the same things over and over. It was truly boring. Sophia Adams, I interrupted her rambling. David Miller probably didn't dare tell you something, did he? What? When David Miller and I divorced, half of Miller Corporation's assets went to me. I deliberately sighed in wonder. Just think, David Miller must truly love you. To marry you, he was willing to give up half of his fortune. Impossible, how could that be? Hearing this news, Sophia Adams was stunned for a moment. David clearly said he did it very secretly, that he wouldn't have to give you a single cent. She seemed to realize she had let something slip and quickly shut up. I scoffed. He wouldn't have to give me a single cent? Right? Yes. Realizing there was no point in hiding it, Sophia Adams admitted, David said he wouldn't have to give you a single cent, that you would leave with nothing. Well, I can tell you now that half of Miller Corporation's assets are in my hands. Looks like David Miller kept it well hidden, didn't he? Of course, a mistress doesn't need a brain, just knows how to flirt and seduce. Oh, by the way, Johnson Corporation has recently accelerated its acquisition of Miller Corporation. You should enjoy your rich lady life while you can, because soon, you'll be broke. No, that's impossible. Sophia Adams left, looking crestfallen. Watching her retreating back, I thought it was time to step up our pace. After that day, Andrew Johnson and I discussed and decided to accelerate the acquisition of Miller Corporation. We both believed that business is war, and being kind to your opponent is being cruel to yourself. So, either you don't do it, or if you do, you completely suppress Miller Corporation so it can never recover. Soon, Miller Corporation began facing frequent crises. The issue of workers protesting due to financial problems even made headlines several times. During this time, David Miller also tried to contact me several times by phone or by coming to my office, but I avoided seeing him. I had no feelings left for him, and there was no way I would let Miller Corporation off the hook. It was better not to meet. I just wanted to resolve this matter quickly. It had already consumed too much of my energy. That day, Andrew Johnson and I worked late again. By the time we turned off the lights and left the office, it was already past 11 p.m. We were chatting and laughing as we drove away from the company. It was late at night, and there weren't many cars or pedestrians on the road. So, when a figure suddenly jumped out in front of the car, we were both startled. Fortunately, Andrew Johnson was a skilled driver and slammed on the brakes in time. The force of the sudden stop still sent my forehead crashing into the dashboard, making me hiss in pain. Where did you hit? Let me see. Andrew Johnson quickly leaned over, examining me carefully. Okay, nothing serious, just a little red. Who was that reckless person? Didn't they look where they were going? The fatigue from work coupled with the fright made me angry. I pushed open the car door and got out, with Andrew Johnson following closely behind. David Miller? Are you trying to get yourself killed? Are you trying to stage an accident or something? Standing in front of the car was none other than my unfortunate ex-husband, David Miller, the head of Miller Corporation. He looked exhausted and haggard, his eyes bloodshot, breathing heavily as he stared at me. Catherine Smith, he said through gritted teeth, looking like he wanted to lunge at me and bite. You're a real bitch, a vixen. I truly regret being blind enough to marry a jinx like you. Miller Corporation has your hard work in it too. How heartless can you be to do this to it? You know it has my hard work in it too. So what's wrong with me taking back what I put in? Mr. Miller, I warned you long ago, if you're not capable yourself, you should hire some talented people. You didn't listen. Now in this situation, you can only blame yourself. And now you're resorting to blocking cars? You're a grown man. Stop with these games. If you get hit, things will get complicated. My words made David Miller's face turn even paler. He stared at me intently, then suddenly shouted and lunged at me. I was momentarily stunned, but Andrew Johnson was quicker. He instantly put his arm around my waist, pulled me behind him, and met David Miller's punch. How could David Miller, in his pathetic state, be a match for Andrew Johnson? In just a few moves, Andrew Johnson had his shoulders pinned, and he kicked him in both knees, making him collapse to the ground. David Miller! I snapped back to reality, furious. You're a man of status and position. Resorting to violence when you can't argue, how cowardly. Miller Corporation deserves to fail with a boss like you. Don't waste your breath on him, Andrew Johnson comforted me. He pointed to the media he had just contacted. I just called some reporter friends. I expect they'll be very interested in Mr. Miller and Miller Corporation's situation. Shock. Head of Miller Corporation, distraught by unrequited love, beating ex-wife on the street. Two men fighting over one woman. Who is this woman? Late night on the street, what did the heads of Miller Corporation and Johnson Corporation do? Begging ex-wife for forgiveness, Miller Corporation head kneeling on the street begging for mercy. Is it the depravity of human nature, or Following Sophia Adams's appearance in various negative news headlines, David Miller also quickly made it to the front page of various media outlets after being beaten for blocking a car on the street. At Andrew Johnson's instruction, the media sensationalized the incident, portraying David Miller's failed business and subsequent attempt to assault me on the street as if they had witnessed it firsthand. It became a sensation, with various opinions and discussions flooding the internet, sparking wave after wave of debate. Holy crap! Neither of these two is decent. First, Sophia the mistress was cheating on the wife's marriage bed and disgusting her, and now this guy actually tries to hit a woman? In business, you have to be prepared to lose money. Who can be a constant winner? Honestly, Miller Corporation's decline is no surprise. The head honcho is too small-minded and petty. Off topic, doesn't anyone think Mr. Johnson from Johnson Corporation is super handsome? Looks, money, and responsible. Why don't I ever meet a man like that? By this time, Miller Corporation was beyond saving and could only await bankruptcy liquidation. The incident had become too big, even alarming the Chamber of Commerce. David Miller was stripped of all his honors in the chamber. Even if he had the ability to make a comeback, he couldn't operate in the city's business circles anymore. Furthermore, I closed the lawsuit the lawyer handed me and placed it gently on the table. Andrew Johnson was so enraged that David Miller had tried to harm me that he hired the best lawyer, instructing him to ensure David Miller served time in prison. It felt so good to be cherished. I secretly smiled to myself. All right, stop looking. We'll be late. Seeing Andrew Johnson pick up the documents and examine them carefully again, I had to interrupt him. We were invited to a reception held by the Chamber of Commerce tonight, and we wouldn't make it if we didn't leave now. Andrew Johnson reluctantly put down the documents, stood up, tidied himself, and went with me to the reception. Tonight's reception was the Chamber of Commerce's leadership change event, so it was very grand. People coming and going saw us and approached us with enthusiastic and fawning smiles to greet us. I responded appropriately to each of them. After these started, the outgoing chairman gave a long, emotional speech, and then, under the expectant gaze of the public, announced the person who would be the next Chamber of Commerce chairman, Ms. Catherine Smith. Andrew Johnson looked at me proudly, applauding and smiling as he watched me walk onto the podium. Truthfully, although I was confident in my abilities, feeling I was no less capable than any man, the Chamber of Commerce had always been a male domain. It wasn't false modesty. I truly hadn't expected to be elected as the next chairman. I took a deep breath and stood steadily at the podium. I looked at the crowd below, veteran businesspeople, young entrepreneurs just starting out, partners accompanying their families, and reporters. They would all witness this moment of glory for me. Let the new chairman say a few words to everyone. Applause immediately erupted in the hall. After the applause subsided slightly, I slowly began to speak, talking about my years navigating the business world. Finally, I said, people often say, all businessmen are dishonest, but that's not entirely true. No matter what we do, we should first maintain our conscience and act without malice. Only then can we achieve lasting success. The applause from the audience continued for a long time.